Alright, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Cold Waters with Mags. So, after a little stop by Holy Lock that took us out of commission for a little while, we are back in the North Sea. We've been sent a mission to hunt down a pack of diesel-electric submarines that are currently trying to intercept supplies heading for Norway. Because while we were in port and unable to complete any missions, the Soviets managed to begin and successfully invade Norway. So we've lost part of the Norwegian coastline. Not great, but not much we could do about it. That's the punishment for taking a torpedo.
At 100 feet,
so we're now at 100 feet, and we have some targets to identify. Sierra 1 is heading straight towards us, which is not ideal. And I'm pretty sure we have intercepted submarines here, so I'm pretty sure these are the diesel electrics we're after, and that is in fact Foxtrot.
Submerged submarine.
This I'm not so sure about. I think this might be a trawler. Merchant. Yeah. Okay, so that's a merchant we don't have to concern ourselves with. That one is a Foxtrot. Now, we haven't got a huge amount of space to work with here, as we're on the edge of the North Sea. Things are a lot more shallow here. We've only got a little over 400 feet to play with, so we're near the bottom, but we do have a duct and a layer that we can work with. So, one Foxtrot identified. There should be multiples. We are after a wolf pack, so there's possible one here that we haven't detected yet. Target range is 12.9 kiloyards, so we are going to drop below the layer. We're going to go to 200 feet.
Make depth 200 feet, dive by.
And once we are below, we are going to send our torpedoes out. We're going to go with the port side tubes to see if we can use a little bit of the Sturgeon's hull to hide the launch transient. The Foxtrot, there's actually a pretty good chance the Foxtrot's going to detect this. Also, while we're moving into the correct depth here, I'd like to apologise for the shoddy release schedule for Cold Waters over the last couple of weeks. I actually did myself a little bit of an injury not long after the last video. I injured my neck, and then a couple of days later I actually injured my lower back. So I have been on bed rest and not doing a whole lot of anything on some pretty gnarly painkillers for the last week. So I'm still on those now, but I am doing much better. Looks like age is starting to catch up with me a little bit. I'm starting to actually feel like somebody who's in my late 30s rather than feeling like somebody who's in my early 30s. It's not great. Alright, so.
Shoot 2-3. Aye, sir.
Torpedo away. Now we should know in a second whether or not there's anybody closer that we haven't detected yet, because we should get counterfire. And nothing. No launch transients. No sudden pings. Nothing. Torpedo is clear of the boat, and nobody seemed to pick up the fact that we launched it, which is good. So still 12.4 kiloyards to the Foxtrot from our location, and it's still maintaining 8 knots. So we're going to just hook the torpedo down, send it across, and then send it north.
Con sonar, launch transient from Sierra 1.
Alright, so torpedo has been detected by the Foxtrot. We did manage to get it to hook down, around, and come back up. Shot's going in the direction I wanted it to do, and the Foxtrot is beginning to maneuver. It's accelerated to 15 knots. It got down to 10.3 kiloyards before it detected us, so no point in messing around now. We're just going to bring the torpedo short to activate. No depth change. There's very little that the Foxtrot can actually do here. It hasn't got a huge depth to begin with, but there is no room to maneuver. That's why it was incredibly important that I get this torpedo hooked around, so any counterfire goes away from me, because I've got the same problem. With only 400 feet, there is not a lot of room to maneuver in a sturgeon in this shallower water. The sturgeon doesn't have a lot of speed. There's not a lot that I can take advantage of here in order to be able to avoid torpedoes. And the torpedoes are a hell of a lot more dangerous in DotMod than they are in vanilla. So chances are, if something got pointed in the right direction towards us here, we'd end up taking a hit. Now, the interesting thing here is we have not detected any other submarines, so this may not actually be our group. We're looking for a wolf pack, not an individual sub. I mean, it still could be our target, but I'm thinking it's unlikely. So there's likely another group in the area. I don't think there's any other submarines associated with this one. I would see other pings on the map, or there would have been other torpedo launches at this point, and so far there has been nothing. Alright, so weapon has acquired, Foxtrot, and lost it almost straight away, and no countermeasure. Must have got thrown off. The Foxtrot must have managed to get a knuckle out then. Foxtrot's heading for the bottom. It is right on the bottom. Jeez, that almost bounced off the bottom then. Alright, cutting it close.
Con sonar, noisemaker bearing 0,
Noisemaker
2,
out.
7.
And just pulls up short of breaching the surface.
Con,
If I was
fire
the
control, weapon countermeasure homing.
Yeah, if I was the Foxtrot here, I would have smashed the surface. Yeah, I would have surfaced the boat. Let's see how close this thing goes. That is an aggressive dive for 400 feet of water. You see, it's got no room to maneuver. All it can do is bob and drop countermeasures. Which might actually be enough for it here.
Con, fire control,
Nope.
weapon acquired.
Torpedo is reacquired. Yeah, no, there's no dodging that. That's a kill.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 1, last bearing 0, 2, 5. Contact breaking up.
Alright. Change depth to 100.
Main depth 100 feet, dive high.
Come
And
left
make
2,
left-hand
0,
turn.
8, 4. Helm aye.
Alright, so we're just going to have to wait around here for a little bit just to see if we can pick up anything else floating around above the layer. We've got the towed array out, but a left-hand turn is not going to drag the towed array across the screw, so we're fine there. And we're just going to have to wait around to see if there's anything else. If there's not, we need to find our next targets. Alright, so we hung around for a little while with the towed array out looking for targets, but unfortunately nothing else showed up, so one Foxtrot to add to the kill tally at this point. Another 2,500 tons for a single torpedo launch. A little bit of experience to go with it as well. And apparently that was the mission objective. So apparently Russia is running out of submarines at such a level at this point due to our work that a wolf pack can consist of a single submarine. Alright, let's find out what our new orders are. Enemy wolf packs hit. It was one sub. It was one sub. A modest amount of fresh supplies and equipment have begun to reach the frontline ground forces. Officials attributed the success to the relative lack of enemy submarine attacks on merchant shipping transiting. Said one fatigued soldier, "I never thought I'd say this, but thank God for the bloody Navy." Many commenters wondered aloud if they were witnessing the tide of the naval battle beginning to turn in the Allies' favour. Ask me again in a week or so, responded one Navy leader. We need a few more good days like today. It was one sub. That was it. Like, if one sub is a wolf pack, yeah, I would say the tide is in our favour at this point. So, new mission. Intelligence has discerned a pattern of movements in enemy at-sea replenishment tankers and tenders. A small enemy force, including 1 or 2 of these ships, is expected to sail from Murmansk shortly for rendezvous in the western Barents Sea. Oh, so that's a rough area to be going into. You're ordered to find and sink this group before it completes replenishment of enemy forces. You may also get a chance at the enemy submarines this group is intended to support, but tenders and tankers are the mission target. Patrol area Blue 43, locate and sink enemy replenishment vessels. Very well. Alright, so we did not reach our designated patrol area and we have been intercepted by a surface fleet. I would say this is likely an anti-submarine warfare patrol guarding the Barents Sea. So, we have to get some identification up here at the moment. See exactly what we've got to deal with. That looks a lot like a Krivak.
Sierra 1 is classified as escort.
Grisha?
Con sonar Sierra 2 is classified as escort.
2 Grishas.
Con sonar Sierra 3 is classified as escort.
And that one is far enough out, I reckon that's going to be a merchant or a trawler. No, what are you? Sorry, just trying to get the ID line here.
Con sonar Sierra 4 is classified as biologic.
Alright, humpback. There we go. Alright, we got an auto ID on that one, so I'll take it. So we got a Grisha III, a Krivak. It looks like 2 Grisha 3s and a Krivak. This isn't our patrol area. Nah, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't our target. Right, so how much do we have? Alright, moderate duct and a moderate layer. And range to target. It's 24 kiloyards. Alright, let's go to...
Make depth 150 feet, dive I.
150 feet, that'll put us just below the layer. We should be more than far enough out to fire the torpedoes off here at the moment. I'm going to split the torpedoes. I'm going to send one north
Con sonar
and one
lost
south.
contact. Sierra 4, last bearing 292. Contact faded.
It's alright.
I'm
not concerned about the humpback. We're just going to make sure we don't sink
2,
the humpback.
7, 8. Contact faded.
I've still got you guys in the comment section on me for that. Although I never sunk it. That was a Chinese torpedo. That was a Chinese torpedo, and before that, that was a Russian torpedo. That had nothing to do with me. Right. 150 feet.
Shoot 2-1. Aye, sir.
Shoot 1 out, turning north.
Con, dive at 150
Shoot 2 out.
feet, dive I.
Turning west. Alright, so a westerly torpedo is going to be heading for the Grisha III. A northerly torpedo is going to be heading for the Krivak. This is going to take a while to get these into position, because this is a particularly long-range shot. Like, 24 kiloyards. If they were heading away from us, the Grisha is very close to heading away from us. At these kind of ranges, this is very close to a, I'm not entirely sure whether or not our torpedoes have enough range to be able to hit these once they run. And they will run once they detect the torpedo. But I think we should be good. This is just going to take a long time to get there. Alright, so it's taken us a little while at this point, but the Krivak has just spotted our torpedo. So torpedo 1 turning in. 2, we are continuing on. I don't want to turn 2 on the Grisha III just yet, because it will line up relatively closely with the angle to our sturgeon. And I really don't want shots coming in our direction. So, yeah, there was a rocket launch torpedoes. So this is okay so far. And the Krivak, the Krivak II, it's, you know, to its credit, isn't being afraid. It's charging in.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 3.
Not sure I
last
call that
bearing
a smart
2,
move,
9,
but it
4,
is what it is.
contact faded.
The Grisha is just maneuvering as the Grishas are, well, they just tend to. We've lost Sierra 3 at the moment, but we know it's somewhere in the area. Now, how much time do we have remaining? We have 11 minutes and 36 seconds remaining on torpedo. So, here's where the question comes in. Do we have enough to be able to intercept and sink the Krivak before our torpedoes run out? Looks like we're getting another launch. Nope, that's aircraft dropped sonar buoys. So we now have sonar buoys in the water. That was dropped by a fixed wing that passed over the area. So the surface ships have called for backup. We are off the edge of the Barents Sea, so everything down here is Soviet territory. They will have fixed wing support. They can potentially get helicopters as well, even though I don't believe any of these ships have the ability to deploy them. They could still get helicopter support. This is not a great place to actually be intercepted. I was hoping to get a little bit further over and actually get to our target, but we have only what we have.
Con sonar regained contact on Sierra 3, bearing 2, 9,
The Grisha
4.
III seems...
Make turns for 10 knots. Maneuvering I.
Ring ship for ultra quiet.
No. Stay quiet. The Grisha seems to have potentially detected the torpedo, so I'm going to turn 2 in.
Con maneuvering. Making turns for 5 knots.
So that was a mistake on my end, accidentally accelerating, and that's the last thing in the world that I want to do right now. Alright, so torpedo 1.
Con sonar lost
9 minutes
contact.
47
Sierra
seconds
3,
remaining.
last bearing
Just about
2,
to intercept the
9,
Krivak.
4. Contact faded.
Torpedo 2 will be
Con
activating.
sonar regained
There we
contact
go.
On Sierra 3, bearing 2, 9, 4.
Sierra 1 has been acquired by Torpedo 1. Torpedo
Con
2
sonar
is
lost
about to go
contact. Sierra
active.
3, last bearing 2, 9, 4. Contact faded.
What is the top speed of the Grisha 3? 34 knots. We should be able to run it down. Maybe. Torpedo 2 has activated, and we are lining it up with the Grisha 3. So we're going to track Torpedo 1. And that is, there's our fixed wing. So there'll be second sonar buoy in the water. Thankfully they're nowhere near where we actually are, which is good. We just need to make sure that stays that way.
3, 1, 1.
Right, noisemaker from the Krivak, manually taking control of the torpedo to intercept. No, you don't. Active homing.
Con, fire control.
There we
Weapon
go.
acquired.
Weapon has reacquired.
sonar, noisemaker, bearing 310.
Continuing to track on the map.
Con sonar, regained contact on Sierra 3, bearing 294.
And
Con sonar,
detonation
lost contact,
right on the screws.
Sierra 1, last bearing 30.
And that was a kill shot. Krivak is
breaking up.
down. So that was obviously the flagship of this particular fleet, or the command ship for this particular anti-submarine warfare patrol. So that's one down. We have counterfire, which is coming oddly close to the direction of the Sturgeon, which is not good. We will need to change depth to avoid that, but first we want to make sure we get a shot into the Grisha III. That makes me wonder whether or not the Grisha's actually got a fair idea on where we might be. Wonder whether or not our small speed increase might have actually thrown that off, or might have actually given up our location. Right, so the Grisha's turning, and as it's turning, it's blocking its own screw noise, which at this range is making it a little bit difficult for us to see. 8 minutes on Torpedo 2. Hopefully the Grisha continues to turn through and starts heading back towards our torpedo. And that is very close, close enough to be concerning. And it's already an active torpedo, so there's no getting past it. Unknown exact depth. I would say it appears to be shallow. So that's alright. We don't have a bottom here.
On torpedo room, tube 1 ready.
Past 2,000 feet, so we're fine. So if we dive to 1,300, we should be able to stay below its cone. Now, I'm not going to bother firing on Sierra 3 at this point. It is too far out to be able to reliably hit. It's running away and it's already at 25 kiluyards. So our torpedoes will range out before they hit. It needs to turn around and come back to be a viable target.
Weapon acquired.
Torpedo 2 is acquired. And it is set to surface running, so it's not the humpback. Yep, we've acquired the Grisha III. It's entirely possible if the Grisha keeps running, I might just let it go at this point. It's not worth the time to chase down. We have other far more important targets, and with a Krivak and a Grisha III destroyed, it's not much of a threat on its own. We can wait till it groups up with another fleet and we'll sink it later. The Grisha III can't actually see much at the moment. It's running 34 knots. It is flat out. It knows there's torpedoes coming in, but it'll have trouble tracking it at this range. At that speed... Sorry, not so much about range, it's about its speed. At that much, its surface noise will be that high, it won't be able to hear the torpedoes. So it knows it's coming, it just doesn't know exactly where it is. Actually, I might not do this from the map this time. We'll actually take direct control of the torpedo.
Sonar, noisemaker, bearing.
There we go, torpedo's reacquired anyway, and it is... Okay, we'll turn it back onto target. Countermeasures there actually threw that off rather well. First countermeasure hooked the torpedo, second countermeasure actually collected it as well and had it going completely the wrong direction. But we need to be a little bit more on that because we've only got 5 minutes left.
Weapon acquired.
Torpedo has acquired.
Con sonar, noisemaker, bearing 285.
Oh, we lost it there. I'm going to do a manual turn in. Ah, sneaky, sneaky. Setting up for a nice cinematic shot then. Alright, let's go active. Grisha actually managed to throw the torpedo off and disappear right in front of us, so we couldn't actually pull that off. Alright, we'll re-find it.
Con, fire control,
There it is.
weapon acquired.
Aha. You actually got a fair distance out then. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Alright, let's try that again. Now, it is probably going to drop another countermeasure here in a second that will throw the torpedo off, but we are actively homing now. And
Sonar lost contact. Sierra 2.
There
last
it is.
Bearing 280. Contact breaking up.
Alright, so now we need to concern ourselves with that incoming torpedo. So we actually didn't have the total ray deployed then. That's funnily. Alright, down to 1,300 feet.
Make depth 1300 feet, dive by.
Now, it did look like the other Grisha III was turning back in this general direction. I'm going to make a turn and start heading down the vector of this torpedo. The sooner we get past it, the better. Also, I want to change our direction of travel a little bit here and just keep a listen out and see what happens with this other Grisha III. Alright, so we have leveled out at 1,300. And either the torpedo has been destroyed or we've lost contact with it at this point. So, deploying the total array once again, just to make sure we've got our ears open to find out exactly what's going on. Although we can see the Grisha III coming in already. This will just help us maintain that connection. 34 kiliyards, or 34 knots at the moment, 22.9 kiliyards out. So, it is closing. The best thing we can do at this point is let it keep closing to come and find us.
1300 feet, dive by.
It looks like it's heading for the remains of the Krivak, past the sonar buoys that have been deployed by the fixed wings. If we just hold location for the moment, or hold speed, hold direction, and just see what it does. So I'm just letting time acceleration do its thing here at the moment, and it doesn't appear to be changing direction. 18 kiliyards. Yeah, it's holding direction. Continuing straight down to 14. All right, 14 kiliyards. At this range, we're firing a shot. So,
Shoot 2-1. Aye, sir.
torpedo is away. Now, it's going to continue closing on us, so I'm going to have the torpedo head completely west, directly west, or pretty close to directly west anyway, just to get it out over here before we turn it north, so it comes in on the side of the Grisha, and hopefully any counterfire goes back in this direction. Once again, we don't want to be taking hits at this point. I don't think this is our actual target fleet. But since the Grisha wants to come back in and play, I'm not going to let it go. If it had kept running that way, I would have just left it alone. But it's coming back at us. So I want to make sure it's off the board. Range to the Grisha is 12.7 kiloyards. Still maintaining 34 knots. It hasn't slowed down, it hasn't changed. So it has not detected the torpedo, it hasn't had a reaction. So, now we're just going to let the torpedo get offside. Alright, so while I'm letting time acceleration run here, what I'm going to do is once the torpedo gets a little bit past directly south, so directly vertical on the map, it's at this point I start turning the torpedo north. So as the torpedo is getting closer at this point, the angle is getting more and more extreme as it travels further up the path. So if the Grisha actually detects it now, the further up this path it gets, the more likely it's going to be shooting this way. So I don't have to get it all the way out and then hook it back. I just have to get it past the point of center, and then the further it closes, the more extreme an angle it's going to be, the more extreme the angle the Grisha will detect it on, and then it will fire its shots, hopefully this way. The only way that that doesn't work is it is at 8.7 kiloyards, so it is also possible that it could detect us directly, in which case we've got bigger issues. Hopefully... we have a torpedo in the water. Two torpedoes. Alright, that's... Okay, so we're doing... Retracting towed array, turning directly north. We're going to wait a few seconds for the towed array to retract.
Come right to 359, helm I.
Right turn, torpedo set to surface running, and we are going to... go to flank.
Make turns for 2.
Grisha's at 26 knots.
Maneuvering I.
Alright, our best bet,
Come right to
and I don't know if we're going to be fast enough to do this at the moment. Mosses are loaded. Both our torpedo and us were at 1,300 feet, so those torpedoes are guaranteed going to be diving down to our depth. I don't really want to run near the surface at this point, so I'm going to run the Sturgeon as fast as I can and as deep as I can. 1,300. We've lost a wire. That's possibly going to happen. It's alright. We're going to run the Sturgeon directly north. At least the torpedo is set to surface running at this point, so it should arm and head directly towards the Grisha. And we need to cut the distance between these torpedoes before it arms, so we're past the cone. And then I just have to cross my fingers that our now loose torp is actually going to find its way to our target and not to us. Alright, so Grisha's just deployed noisemakers, and we are past the 90-degree point on the torpedo that was the biggest risk. So it did not detect us. And that is our torpedo there. Alright, so our torpedo has acquired the Grisha, even without a wire.
Bearing 353.
Now, our biggest thing we need to do right now is make sure that we do not get involved.
Come right to 0, 6.
Because even though the torpedo is set to surface running, if we are shallow enough, it can still acquire us. So for the moment, it's floating around near the surface doing its thing. We're still at 1,300 feet. We should be below its detection cone. We want to stay there. And the torpedo is turning back. It has reacquired the Grisha. Now the Grisha should be clear to deploy another countermeasure here in a moment.
Come right to 0, 6.
Once I've completed this turn, I'll get the towed array out so we can make sure we maintain contact with both of these.
Con sonar, noisemaker, bearing.
There it is,
3,
another
5,
countermeasure in the
5.
water. And Nope, looks like the torpedo is ignoring the countermeasure. Our loose Mark 48 is heading to target. Nope. Nah, it's turning back in. Yeah, I think this is done.
Con sonar lost contact.
Alright,
03,
so we broke a
last
wire,
bearing,
but
3,
torpedo
5, 9,
still
contact
made
breaking
the
up.
kill. So we can now shallow this up safely, bring us up to about 700 feet, so we're not right on the edge of test depth. And that's another ASW patrol out of play. Not our primary target, but still 3 more ships to add to the kitty, and 3 ships that we really don't want to have to deal with later. So now we just got to wait for the torpedoes to clear the area, and we are good to go. Alright, so after action report, we got 2 Grisha IIIs and the Krivak, 5,090 tons to the kitty, 3 torpedoes launched, 3 kills, 5,090 experience, which seems awfully low. We got 10,000 for killing the Foxtrot earlier on. Still, that doesn't affect our torpedo counts all that much. We've still got 11 left on board, plus our 4 Moss, plus our 4 anti-ship missiles, so we're still good for our primary target. And this was not our mission objective, which I kind of already knew, but still, we needed to deal with it. Anyways, ladies and gents, I'm going to end this one here. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Cold Waters will be returning to the channel hopefully on Monday without any more delays this time. So until next time, remember to click that like button if you did, share and subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, take care.